The black SUV idled at the red light on Fifth Avenue. Inside, Dante Caruso scrolled through his phone, barely registering the city outside his tinted windows. Then a small hand pressed against the glass. A boy, no older than 10, hollow-cheeked and shivering in a threadbare jacket. His eyes locked onto Dante's through the window, dark eyes that held something more than hunger, something that looked like recognition. Dante's driver moved to wave the kid away, but Dante raised his hand. Wait. The boy didn't beg, didn't cry. He just stared with an intensity that made Dante's chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt in a decade. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. Boss? His driver questioned. Dante opened the door. The boy didn't flinch, didn't run. He stood his ground like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. What's your name, kid? The boy's jaw clenched. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight no child should bear. Marco. Something in Dante's world shifted. He just didn't know it yet. This is a story that will grip you from beginning to end, a tale of secrets, revenge, and redemption that nobody saw coming. If you want to discover how a chance encounter on a New York street unravels a decade of lies and transforms 3 lives forever, subscribe to the channel and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view brings us closer to sharing more stories like this one. Elena Moretti's hands were raw from bleach. 3rd restaurant that day, 4th floor to scrub. Her knees ached against the tile as she worked her way across the kitchen of Bellissimo, one of Manhattan's most exclusive Italian establishments. The kind of place she'd never afford to eat at. The kind of place where men in $1,000 suits made deals while she made their floors shine. "Hey, you missed a spot," one of the line cooks called out, pointing lazily. She bit back her response, swallowed her pride like she did every day, and went back over the area. Pride didn't pay rent. Pride didn't keep Marco fed. Marco. Her chest tightened thinking about him. 10 years old today, and she'd promised him a cake. A real cake from the bakery, not the expired ones from the discount store. She checked her phone. 2 more hours here, then she could catch the subway to the Bronx in time to surprise him before her overnight shift. The kitchen doors burst open. Every sound in the room died instantly. Even the head chef stopped mid-chop. Elena looked up from her bucket. Her world stopped. Dante Caruso walked in like he owned the place, because he probably did. Tall, impossibly handsome, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her year's rent. His presence filled the room, sucked the air out of it. 10 years had only made him more devastating. The same dark eyes that had once looked at her like she was his entire world. The same mouth that had promised her forever. Before he'd disappeared. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She was invisible to men like him now. Just another cleaning woman on her knees. She turned her face away, let her hair fall forward. He couldn't see her. He wouldn't recognize her after all these years, not like this. "Mr. Caruso, we weren't expecting you tonight," the restaurant manager stammered, appearing from nowhere. "Your usual table." "Kitchen inspection," Dante cut him off, his voice exactly as she remembered, low, commanding, leaving no room for argument. "I heard rumors of problems. I don't tolerate problems in my establishments." His establishments. Of course. The Caruso family owned half of Manhattan's finest restaurants. She'd known that. She'd been careful to avoid every place connected to his name. Until tonight, when desperation for extra cash had made her take a last-minute shift. She kept her head down, continued scrubbing. Just a few more feet and she could slip out through the service exit. "You." His voice cut through her thoughts like a blade. Elena's blood turned to ice. She didn't look up. "You on the floor. What's your name?" Her hands froze on the mop. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But running would draw attention. She had to be invisible. She had to protect Marco. "Elena, sir," she managed, keeping her voice low, her accent neutral. Nothing like the girl who used to whisper to him in Italian in the dark. She heard his sharp intake of breath, felt his stare burning into her. Time stretched into something painful. "Look at me." It wasn't a request. Slowly, Elena raised her head. Their eyes met across the kitchen. She watched recognition slam into him like a physical blow. His expression cracked, just for a second, before that cold mask dropped back into place. But she'd seen it. The shock. The questions. The flash of something that might have been pain. "Everyone out," Dante said quietly. Dangerously. "Now." The kitchen emptied in 30 seconds. Even the manager knew better than to argue with that tone. Elena stayed on her knees, hands gripping the mop handle like it might save her. The door closed. They were alone. Dante crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. He towered over her, his shadow swallowing her whole. 10 years, he said, his voice barely controlled. 10 years, Elena. Not a word. Not a trace. She forced herself to stand, even though her legs shook. Even on her feet, he was taller, broader, infinitely more powerful. But she'd learned to survive. She'd learned to be strong for Marco. "You told me to disappear," she said, meeting his eyes. "I did what you wanted. I told you I'd come back for you." His hand shot out, gripped her chin, not rough, but firm, demanding. "I told you to wait. I waited." The words came out broken. "For 3 months, Dante. 3 months while your enemies circled. While your men told me you'd moved on. While I realized—" She stopped herself. Too much. She'd said too much. His eyes narrowed. Realized what? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She saw his gaze flicker to it. Buzz again. And again. "Marco." Something was wrong. "I have to go," she whispered. "You're not going anywhere until you tell me where you've been. Why you left." Her phone rang. The ringtone Marco had set for himself, a stupid song he loved. She saw Dante register it. Saw the question forming. Elena jerked away from him, grabbed her phone. "Marco? Baby, what's wrong?" "Mom." His voice was tight, scared. "Mom, some men came to the apartment. They said they were looking for someone. They were asking about Dad." The phone nearly slipped from her shaking hands. She felt Dante tense beside her. "Where are you?" she demanded. "Fire escape. I hid like you taught me. Mom, I'm scared." "Stay there. Don't move. I'm coming." She ended the call, grabbed her coat. Dante's hand closed around her arm. "Who is Marco?" She met his eyes. Saw her entire life about to explode. "Someone you were never supposed to know about." She ripped free and ran. Behind her, she heard him bark orders into his phone. Heard the kitchen doors crash open. Heard his footsteps following her. She'd spent 10 years hiding. 10 years keeping Marco safe from Dante's world. That was over now. 20 minutes earlier, Marco Moretti had stood outside Bellissimo restaurant, watching black SUVs pull up to the entrance. He'd studied photos of Dante Caruso for months. Memorized every detail of the man who'd abandoned his mother. The man whose blood ran through his veins. The man he'd sworn to make pay. When the opportunity came, a red light, the back SUV slightly separated from the others, Marco had moved. His heart pounded as he pressed his hand against the tinted window. He'd practiced this moment 100 times. Looking hungry. Looking desperate. Looking like just another street kid. But when the window lowered and he'd met those eyes, his own eyes staring back at him from an older face, something in his chest had cracked. "What's your name, kid?" Mako had almost told him. Almost said, "I'm your son. The son you never wanted." But the plan. He had to stick to the plan. Mako. He'd watched something flash across Dante Caruso's face. Recognition? Impossible. They'd never met. Then his phone had buzzed. His mother's emergency code. 3 short buzzes. Danger. Come home now. Mako had run. Now he huddled on the fire escape of their 4th-floor walk-up, watching 2 men in dark suits search their apartment through the window. His mother's words echoed in his head. If anyone ever comes looking, hide first, ask questions later. He'd been 8 when she'd started drilling him on emergency procedures. 10 now, and he understood why. His father's world was dangerous. His father's enemies were everywhere. His father. Mako's hands clenched into fists. Dante Caruso had looked right at him and hadn't known. Hadn't recognized his own son begging on the street. The anger that had fueled his plan burned hotter. A hand suddenly gripped his shoulder. Mako spun, fist raised. "Easy, kid." A man with silver-streaked hair and a kind face held up his hands. But his other hand rested on a gun beneath his jacket. "Your mother sent me. Name's Vincent. I work for—" "I know who you work for," Mako spat. "My mother doesn't have friends who work for the Caruso family." Vincent's eyebrow raised. "Smart kid. But right now, those men in your apartment? They don't work for us. They work for the Vitali family. And if they find you, Smart won't save you." Car tires squealed on the street below. Mako looked down to see 3 more black SUVs blocking both ends of the street. Men poured out. But these were different. Moving with military precision. Securing the perimeter. And there, stepping out of the lead vehicle, Dante Caruso. Beside him, a woman ran frantically up the sidewalk. His mother. She'd led him here. Mako's breath caught. She'd led Dante Caruso straight to their hiding place. "Time to go, kid." Vincent's grip tightened on his shoulder. "Boss's orders. You're under Caruso protection now." "I don't want his protection," Mako snarled, but Vincent was already pulling him toward the roof access. Below, Mako watched his mother reach Dante. Watched them argue. Watched Dante's men storm into the building. Watched his careful plan fall apart. Because now Dante Caruso would have questions. And Marco's mother, the strongest woman he knew, looked like she was about to break. Elena's apartment was destroyed. Furniture overturned, drawers emptied, Marco's small room torn apart. She stood in the center of it, fighting to breathe. "Where is he?" she demanded. "Where's my son?" Dante stood in the doorway, filling it. His men had cleared the Vitali soldiers out. She'd heard the confrontation in the stairwell, the tense standoff. No shots fired. Just Dante's quiet voice promising war if they didn't leave. They'd left. "Safe," Dante said. "Vincent has him." "Vincent." She laughed, but it came out broken. "You sent your consigliere to collect my son? Like he's a package? A loose end. Like he's the most important thing in the world." Dante's voice dropped lower. "Because apparently he is. To you." He stepped into the apartment, glass crunching under his expensive shoes. 10 years, Elena. You had my... He stopped. Couldn't say it. "How old is he?" She wrapped her arms around herself. The secret that had defined her life for a decade, crumbling in a single night. 10. Jesus Christo. His hand scraped through his hair. 10 years. You were pregnant. When you left, you were... The muscles in his jaw worked. And you never told me. You made it very clear I had no place in your life. The words came out sharp, defensive. Your enemies were circling. Your uncle told me you were being groomed to take over the family. That a poor girl from the Bronx with no connections would only be a liability. A target. My uncle. Dante's voice went deadly quiet. Carlo told you to leave? He gave me money. Told me you'd agreed it was for the best. That you'd already moved on. The old wounds reopened, fresh as the day they'd been carved. I waited for you to call. To come. But you never did. Because I was in Sicily. Dante roared, his control finally snapping. My father sent me to train with the old families. No phone. No contact. 3 months of hell learning to become Don. And when I came back, you were gone. Vanished. I tore this city apart looking for you. Elena staggered. You looked? I thought you were dead. His voice cracked on the word. I thought my enemies had taken you. That I'd lost you because I'd been too proud, too stupid to mark you as mine before I left. For 3 years, Elena. 3 years I searched. 3 years. While she'd been raising their son alone. While she'd struggled through pregnancy and delivery with no one. While she'd worked herself to exhaustion keeping Marco fed and safe. You should have tried harder, she whispered. You should have told me about my son. The accusation hung between them. Both true. Both painful. Her phone rang. Vincent. Put him on, she demanded. Mom. Marco's voice was small, scared in a way she'd never heard. Mom, there's a lot of men here with guns. Baby, they're not going to hurt you. I don't want to be here. I want to come home. She looked at their destroyed apartment. Home? What home? Can I talk to him? Dante's voice was rough. Elena's hand tightened on the phone. No. Elena. You don't get to talk to him. Not yet. Not until I figure out how to explain that his father, the man I told him wanted nothing to do with us, is actually the most dangerous man in New York. What did you tell him about me? She met his eyes, saw the fear there, the vulnerability beneath all that power. The truth, that I loved you, that you lived in a world too dangerous for us, that you made a choice. She paused. I never told him you abandoned us on purpose. I never made him hate you, Dante. But I never made him love you either. Let me fix this. He moved closer, and she could smell his cologne, same as she remembered. Let me protect you both. Properly this time. Protection. The laugh that escaped her was bitter. Your protection is what got my apartment torn apart. Your world is what I've been running from for 10 years. And how's that worked out? His hand cupped her face, gentle despite his words. You're exhausted. Working 3 jobs. Living in fear. Our son is on a fire escape hiding from men who want to use him against me. Men who'll now know he exists because of tonight. His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I can't change the past, Dante said softly. But I can make damn sure no one ever threatens you again. Either of you. His eyes searched hers. Let me meet my son, Elena. Let me try to be what he needs. What you both need. She wanted to say no. Wanted to grab Marco and run like she'd been doing for a decade. But she was so tired of running. One chance, she whispered. You get one chance, Dante. And if you hurt him, I'd cut out my own heart first. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. Vincent's bringing him to the penthouse, Dante said. It's secure. Guarded. You'll both stay there until the Vitali threat is handled. I'm not staying in your home. Our home. His forehead pressed against hers. It should have always been our home, tesoro mio. Let me give you what I should have 10 years ago. Elena closed her eyes. Felt the walls she'd built crumbling. Felt the girl who'd loved him desperately claw her way back to the surface. "He's angry," she warned. "Marco. He's been asking about you for months. I think he was planning something." Dante pulled back. "Planning what?" "I don't know. But he's smart, Dante. And he's stubborn. Just like you." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Then I'm in trouble." "We both are." His hand found hers. Squeezed. "We'll figure it out. Together. Together." The word wrapped around her heart, dangerous and tempting. She just hoped they all survived what came next. The Caruso penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a midtown tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, a kingdom spread at their feet. Marco stood at the glass, hands pressed against it, trying to process that this was his father's world. This was what his mother had given up. "Impressive view, isn't it?" Vincent said from behind him, but his tone was kind, not patronizing. "It's just buildings," Marco muttered. But his reflection in the glass showed the truth. Wide eyes, clenched jaw, the desperate attempt to look unimpressed. The elevator chimed. Marco's entire body tensed. His mother appeared first, still in her cleaning uniform, looking small and out of place in the marble entryway. But then Dante Caruso stepped in behind her, and suddenly the massive space felt smaller. Elena rushed forward, gathered Marco into her arms. He let her, even though he was 10 and too old for this. Even though his plan was falling apart and he needed to think. "Are you okay?" she asked, checking him over. "Did anyone hurt you?" "I'm fine, Mom." He pulled back, looked past her to the man standing motionless by the elevator. "He's really here. Marco." But Marco was already walking toward Dante, studying him up close for the first time. Same eyes. Same stubborn chin. Same dark hair, though Dante's had silver at the temples. "You don't recognize me," Marco said. It wasn't a question. Dante's throat worked. "No, son. I don't. But I wish I did. I wish I'd known every day of your life." "Liar." The word cracked like a whip. "Marco." Elena started forward, but Dante raised his hand. Stopped her. "Let him speak," Dante said quietly. "He has that right." Marco's hands clenched into fists. All the anger, all the questions, all the nights wondering why he wasn't good enough for his father to stay, it erupted. "You walked away from my mom. From us. And tonight, when I stood outside your car, when I pressed my hand against your window, you looked right at me and didn't know who I was." His voice broke. "Your own son begging on the street, and you didn't even know." Dante's face went white. "That was you? The boy at the light? I wanted to see if you'd recognize me. If maybe, somehow, you'd know." Marco's vision blurred with tears he refused to shed. "But you didn't. Because we never mattered." "That's not true." Dante dropped to one knee, bringing himself to Marco's eye level. "Marco, I didn't know you existed. Your mother left to protect you from my world. From the danger that comes with my name. She left because you let her go." Marco shouted. "She left because you chose this," he gestured at the luxury surrounding them, "over us." "He didn't know," Elena said softly, joining them. "Marco, baby, he didn't know about you. I never told him." Marco spun to his mother. "Why not?" "Because I was scared." Her eyes filled with tears. "Because his world is dangerous. Because I thought I was protecting you." "By making us poor? By making you work 3 jobs? By hiding?" Marco's voice rose. "I'm not stupid, Mom. I know what he is. I know what the Caruso family does. And I know that we could have had help, that I could have had a father. But instead, you chose to keep me from him. The accusation hit Elena like a physical blow. Don't talk to your mother that way, Dante said, his voice carrying authority. She made an impossible choice to keep you safe. She sacrificed everything for you. And you? Marco turned back to him. What did you sacrifice? Everything that mattered. Dante's answer was immediate. I lost your mother. I lost 10 years with you. I lost the chance to be there when you were born, to teach you to walk, to protect you both. His jaw clenched. But that ends tonight. Tonight, we start over. I don't want to start over. Marco stepped back. I wanted revenge. I wanted to find you and make you pay for what you did to us. I've been planning it for months. Marco, Elena gasped. But Dante's expression shifted. Not anger. Something else. Understanding? Respect? Revenge? Dante repeated slowly. What were you planning, son? Don't call me that. But Marco's voice wavered. I was going to expose you. Find evidence of your crimes. Get you arrested. Make sure you lost everything, like we did. Marco, no, Elena started. But then I saw you, Marco continued, the words tumbling out now. And you looked tired. And when you told your driver to wait, when you actually looked at me like I mattered, even just as some hungry kid, I realized I didn't know you at all. I only knew the story Mom told me. The story I built in my head. Silence fell over the penthouse. Vincent had disappeared, giving them privacy. Come here, Dante said softly. Marco hesitated. Then, slowly, he stepped forward. Dante pulled him into his arms, carefully, like Marco might break. Or run. I deserve your anger, he said. Your hatred. Your revenge. I deserve all of it. But I'm asking for a chance. One chance to show you that I would have been there. That I wanted to be there. That from this moment forward, nothing in this world matters more than you and your mother. Marco's resistance crumbled. His small arms wrapped around his father's neck, and 10 years of missing what he'd never had broke open. I wanted you to come for us, he sobbed. I wanted you to be the hero. I'm no hero, Marco. Dante's voice was rough with emotion. But I swear to you, I'll spend the rest of my life making up for what I missed. For what you both endured alone. Elena knelt beside them, her hand on Marco's back. We're a family now, she whispered. However broken, however complicated. We're together. Marco pulled back, looked between them. Promise? Promise you won't leave again. Never, they said in unison. The elevator chimed again. Vincent stepped out, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. The Vitales know about the boy. They're calling for a meeting. They want to negotiate. Dante's arms tightened around Marco. Then they're going to learn what happens when someone threatens a Caruso. Marco felt his father's heartbeat, strong and steady, and understood. This was protection. This was what having a father meant. He just hoped they all survived what came next. The meeting took place in neutral territory, an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook that both families had used for negotiations for decades. Elena watched from the car as Dante's men swept the building, securing every entrance, every shadow. You shouldn't be here, Marco said from beside her in the back seat. Vincent sat in the front, silent and alert. Neither should you, Elena countered. But your father insisted we see this. He wants us to understand his world, Marco said quietly. He'd changed in the 3 days since that night at the penthouse. Watched his father conduct business. Seen the power and the danger. but also the loyalty, the honor among monsters. Are you scared? Elena asked. Terrified. Mako's hand found hers. But he won't let anything happen to us. I believe that now. Elena's throat tightened. She believed it too. Dante had spent every spare moment with them, teaching Marco chess, asking about his life, listening to stories of the years he'd missed. And with Elena, stolen moments, careful touches, the rebuilding of something that had never really died. The warehouse doors opened. Dante emerged, flanked by his top men. He scanned the area, his gaze finding their car. Even from this distance, Elena felt the intensity of his focus, the promise in his eyes. Nothing touches them. Not while I breathe. A convoy of black cars approached from the opposite direction. The Vitali family. Elena recognized Michael Vitali from the news, younger than Dante, ambitious, hungry for power. The two groups met in the center of the warehouse floor. Dante stood relaxed, hands in his pockets. But Elena had learned to read him again. She saw the coiled violence beneath the calm surface. Caruso. Michael's voice carried through the open warehouse. I hear congratulations are in order. A son. After all these years. What do you want, Vitali? Dante's tone could have cut glass. Just to talk. To negotiate. Michael smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Your territory in Brooklyn. Your shipping contracts in the port. In exchange, your son gets to grow up. In the car, Marco's hand tightened on Elena's. That's not a negotiation, Dante said softly. That's a threat. Call it what you want. Here's my counteroffer. Dante took a single step forward. You leave my family alone. You stay out of my territory. And in exchange, I don't burn your entire organization to the ground. Michael laughed. You can't win a war against us, Caruso. We've been preparing. For what? Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. For me to have something to lose? For me to have a weakness you could exploit? He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen. Vincent. Bring them out. Vincent stepped out of the car, opened the back door. Marco emerged first, shoulders squared despite his fear. Then Elena, staying close to her son. No, Elena breathed, understanding what Dante was doing. They walked toward the warehouse, exposed, vulnerable. Every instinct screamed at Elena to grab Marco and run. But she forced herself to trust, to believe in the man Dante had become. Dante watched them approach, and for just a second, his mask cracked. Love. Raw and absolute. Then the ice returned. You wanted leverage, Dante said to Michael, his voice carrying across the warehouse. You thought you could use them against me. So let me make something very clear. He gestured as Elena and Marco reached his side. His arm wrapped around Elena's waist, pulled her close. His other hand rested on Marco's shoulder. This is my family. My blood. My heart. And if you think that makes me weak, you don't understand what I'll do to protect them. You're bringing civilians to a negotiation? Michael's smile faltered. That's reckless. It's a message. Dante's voice turned to steel. Every family in New York knows now. The boy is mine. The woman is mine. They're under Caruso protection. And anyone who threatens them answers to me. Not my men. Not my consigliere. Me. The warehouse fell silent. Elena felt the weight of every stare, every gun, every unspoken threat. But she also felt Dante's certainty. His absolute conviction. You're declaring war, Michael said slowly. No. Dante smiled, and it was terrifying. I'm declaring peace. My family is off limits. Everyone else operates as normal. Business continues. But the second someone crosses that line, his hand tightened on Marco's shoulder. I become something your nightmares can't prepare you for. Michael studied them. The calculation behind his eyes was visible. And if we agree to these terms, then we all prosper. The families maintain balance. New York stays profitable. Dante's tone shifted to something almost reasonable. But if you refuse, I've already moved assets into position. I have alliances you don't know about. And I will salt the earth where your organization stands. It was a bluff. It had to be. No one could mobilize that quickly. But Michael Vitali didn't know that. 48 hours, Michael said finally. I'll bring it to the council. 24, Dante countered. After that, I consider silence an act of war. Michael's jaw clenched. Then he nodded. 24 hours. The Vitali convoy pulled away, leaving dust and tension in their wake. The moment they disappeared, Dante's men surrounded them, creating a human shield, getting them back to the cars. In the back seat, Elena finally let herself breathe. You used us as bait. I used you as a declaration. Dante slid in beside them, his arm immediately going around her shoulders. They needed to see you're not a secret, not a weakness. You're my strength. Both of you. And if they'd started shooting? Marco asked, his voice smaller than he wanted it to be. Then every man in that building would have died protecting you. Dante looked at his son. But I counted on Vitali being smart. On him understanding that harming you would unite every other family against him. No one wants that kind of war. It's a gamble, Elena said. Everything in my world is a gamble, tesoro. His hand cupped her face. But you're the only thing I'm not willing to risk. So I made sure everyone knows. Touching you means going through me. And no one in New York is that stupid. Marco leaned against his father's side. What happens now? Now. Dante's arms wrapped around them both. Now we go home. We have dinner. We act like the family we should have always been. He pressed a kiss to Marco's head, then to Elena's temple. And tomorrow, we start building the life I should have given you 10 years ago. Just like that, Elena whispered. It's over. The threat? For now. Dante's eyes met hers. But us? We're just beginning. The car pulled away from the warehouse, heading toward the glittering lights of Manhattan, toward the penthouse that would become their home, toward the future they'd almost lost. Elena leaned into Dante's warmth, felt Marco's small hand in hers, and let herself believe. They were finally safe. They were finally together. They were finally home. 5 years later, the Caruso estate in the Hamptons sparkled under the August sun. Elena stood on the terrace, watching Marco, now 15, teach his younger sister, Sophia, how to swim in the massive pool. The 4-year-old shrieked with laughter as her big brother lifted her into the air. Bella, you're worrying again. Dante's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. I can always tell. I'm not worrying, Elena lied. Just remembering. Remembering when you cleaned restaurant floors? His lips brushed her ear. When Marco stood outside my car in the rain? Remembering when I was terrified every second of every day. She turned in his arms. And being grateful I don't have to be any more. 5 years. 5 years since that night in the warehouse. 5 years of Marco learning the family business, the legitimate parts, Dante insisted. 5 years of slow rebuilding, of learning to be partners instead of separated lovers. 5 years of marriage, of Sophia's birth, of becoming the family they'd always been meant to be. Marco got accepted to Columbia, Dante said, pride evident in his voice. Full scholarship. Computer science. Like he needs a scholarship. Elena laughed, gesturing at the estate around them. He wanted to earn it himself. Dante's expression softened. He's a good kid, Elena. We did something right. You did something right. She corrected, teaching him that power comes with responsibility, that the family name means protecting, not exploiting. I learned that from you. His forehead pressed against hers. You and Marco taught me what really matters. What's worth protecting? Marco climbed out of the pool, Sophia giggling on his shoulders. Dad, Mom. Sophia wants to show you her dive. She's 4, Elena called back. She's not diving. It's more of a jump, Marco clarified, grinning. But she insists it's a dive. They walked down to the pool, Dante's hand secure in Elena's. Sophia launched herself off the side, Marco catching her easily. The sound of her laughter carried across the water. I still can't believe this is our life, Elena whispered. Believe it, tesoro mio. Dante pulled her closer. Every scar, every tear, every moment of fear, it brought us here. To this. Marco waded over, Sophia still on his shoulders. Mom, can we tell them now? Elena raised an eyebrow. Tell us what? Her son exchanged a look with Dante, a conspiratorial look that made her instantly suspicious. I've been teaching him Italian, Dante admitted. The real stuff, family history, where we came from. And I want to learn more, Marco said seriously. About the business, the legitimate operations. I want to help modernize them, bring the family into the tech age. Elena's breath caught. Marco. I'm not asking to be part of that world, Mom. Her son's eyes, so like his father's, held steady. But it's my legacy, my name. And if I can help make it better, cleaner, safer, isn't that worth something? She looked at Dante, saw the pride there, the careful hope. Columbia first, she said firmly. Education, normal life. Then we talk about legacy. Deal. Marco grinned, that rare smile that lit up his whole face. Sophia tugged on Dante's hand. Daddy, up. He scooped up his daughter, tossed her squealing into the air. Elena watched her husband, the feared Don of the Caruso family, reduced to putty in his little girl's hands. Watched Marco splash water at his sister, both of them laughing. This was what she'd fought for, what she'd sacrificed for. And somehow, impossibly, they'd found their way here. The scars remained. The memories of those desperate years never fully faded. But they'd been worth it. Every struggle, every tear, every moment of doubt. Because now, standing on this terrace with her family whole and safe and together, Elena Caruso finally understood what Dante had told her that night in the warehouse. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were thriving. And nothing, would take this away from them again. And so ends this story of secrets, revenge, and redemption. A tale of a boy who sought to punish the father he never knew, only to discover that sometimes the truth is more complicated than the stories we tell ourselves. If this journey moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear a story about second chances and the power of family. More stories are coming your way. We'll see you in the next one.